So, what if I told you that the biggest obstacle in your life is actually you? Kind of wild, right? Well, today we're going to unpack this really powerful idea that taking total 100% ownership of your life is the key to unlocking your future. So, let's jump right in.
Okay, let's start with this. You are not a failure until you look for who to blame for it. Whoa. I mean, really let that sink in for a second. This isn't just some clever saying. It's a huge challenge, isn't it? It's hitting right at our first instinct when things go south to look for someone or something else to blame. It completely flips the script on what failure even is. It's not the mistake, it's the act of passing the buck.
And that idea leads us perfectly into our first section here. We're calling it the blame trap. Why is it so darn easy to point fingers? And maybe more importantly, what's the real price we pay when we do it?
All right, check this out. According to the source material for this, here's a pretty startling breakdown. It argues that only about 25% of our problems, a quarter of them, actually come from outside forces. Other people, bad luck, the universe, whatever. But the rest, that huge 75% chunk, yeah, that's self-inflicted. So in other words, most of the time, we're the main source of our own headaches. And you've probably heard this one before, but it just captures the idea so perfectly. Every time you point one finger at someone else, just look down at your hand. Three of your own fingers are pointing right back at you. It's such a simple but powerful visual, isn't it? It's a reminder that when we're busy blaming, we're usually ignoring our own part to play, and more importantly, our own power to change things. Okay, so if blame is the trap, how in the world do we get out? Well, that's what our second section is all about. Radical personal responsibility.
And really, this whole philosophy boils down to one single powerful piece of advice. You are absolutely responsible for the outcome of your life. I mean, think about that. Not kind of responsible, not just responsible when things are going great. Absolutely. This idea of total, complete ownership, it's the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about.
So, this thinking leads to a really interesting concept called the do-it-yourself kingdom. The principle is pretty simple. You, and you alone, are responsible for taking the actions that get you the results you want in life. To put it another way, your success, it's not a group project, it's a solo mission.
All right, so how do we actually do this? How do we put it into practice? That's what Section 3 is all about, what a do-it-yourself approach looks like in the real world. And in this context, faith isn't just about believing something, it's about belief in action. We're going to focus on that huge difference between passively waiting for things to happen and actively doing something.
Let me ask you a super simple question. Can the gas in your friend's car make your car go? Of course not, right? The answer is obvious. Well, it's the exact same idea here. You just can't get ahead using someone else's effort or someone else's faith or their actions. Your life needs its own fuel, and that fuel is your initiative. Now let's look at two totally different ways to handle a problem. On one hand, you've got this guy who waits by a pool for 38 years. His excuse? I have no man to help me. And the result? He stays stuck. But then you've got Zacchaeus. He wants to see Jesus, but he's too short to see over the crowd. Does he wait? No. He takes matters into his own hands and literally climbs a tree to get a better view. I mean, you can't get a clearer picture of the difference between waiting and doing. And the lesson here is just crystal clear, isn't it? Waiting around is basically just choosing to stay stuck. Nothing, and I mean nothing, will happen until you do something to make it happen. Action isn't just one of your options, it's the only thing that actually sparks progress. Okay, but let's be real. Even when we decide to take action, we want to see results like yesterday. And that brings us to a huge roadblock for pretty much all of us, impatience. So let's get into our fourth section, the pace of progress. The source material has this really stark warning about our obsession with getting things fast. It says, those who are in a hurry always end up in horror. Wow, that's intense. But it's a powerful reminder, right? Rushing things can lead to some truly disastrous outcomes. Real progress, the kind that lasts, takes patience. And there's a good reason for that. True, lasting success, it's built little by little. It doesn't happen all at once. You overcome challenges gradually, and that process builds up your strength, your capacity to handle even bigger successes later on. Think about it. Getting too much too soon can be totally overwhelming. It can actually set you up to fail.
This idea applies perfectly to something like leadership. See, leadership isn't just a title someone hands you, it's something you earn step by step. It starts with serving, then you prove you can be trusted with the small things. Once you do that, you start to earn authority over bigger things. And it's through that whole process that you actually become a real leader. So, we've talked about responsibility, taking action, and being patient. How do we pull all of that together? Well, that's what our final section is all about. Your future, your hands. The very first step is a huge shift in how you think. You have to stop waiting. Seriously. Stop waiting for the perfect opportunity, stop waiting for someone to help you, stop waiting for anyone else to come along and add value to your life. The cavalry is not coming. So instead of waiting, you have to start doing. Start taking steps to secure value for yourself. You got to remember, anything that's actually worth having is going to require your input, your effort. Nothing of real, lasting value is ever just handed over on a silver platter. And when you boil it all down, it comes to this one truth. What you become tomorrow is determined by what you are doing now. Your future isn't some far-off thing that just happens to you. Nope. It's something you are building right now with every single choice you make today. So, there it is. The power is literally in your hands. You've heard the argument for taking complete, radical ownership of your life. So the only question left, the only one that really matters, is this. What are you going to do about it?